I'm just going to leave this here. Last April, a Florida couple, famous last words, were arrested for allegedly selling golden tickets to heaven to hundreds of people. Tito and Amanda Watts sold the tickets for roughly $100 American, claiming the tickets were constructed from solid gold and good for free admission to the hereafter's highest plane of existence. While being interviewed by authorities, Tito indicated, "I don't care what the police say, the tickets are solid gold, and it was Jesus who gave them to me behind the KFC and told me to sell them so I could go get me some money to go to outer space. I met this alien named Stevie, and he said if I got the cash to give her, he would take me and my wife on his flying saucer to his planet that is made entirely of drugs. Now, you should arrest Jesus, 'cause he's the one that gave me them tickets. I'm willing to wear a wire and set Jesus up." In her statement, Amanda claims, "We just wanted to leave Earth, go to space, and do drugs. I did not do anything. Tito sold the tickets to heaven. I just watched." Police say they confiscated over $10,000 in cash, drug paraphernalia, and one baby alligator. Well, if you wanted honesty, you've most certainly come to the wrong place. Because this is the 100th episode of the Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm John.
I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
Coming in hot there, Michael.
That couple you described sounds.
Zippity soup, I'm out of here.
Zippity soup, I'm out of here.
That couple that you described sounds like the couple in Breaking Bad, the fridge episode.
Yep, where they're breaking up in the ATM.
Yep, yeah, fridge ATM. My bad. You know what I was talking about. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Nice.
I'm hip to your lingo.
Yeah, but what you aren't hip to is responding to my brilliant 2 a.m. podcast ideas.
What I'm also not hep to is hep C, so two things I will refuse to let you share with me by this point.
I texted Shane last night right before I went to bed because I had an idea for a podcast that we're never going to do, but I thought he would at least appreciate the levity of the pitch.
I'll never love you.
And I woke, yeah. What is it you're saying lately? What's your monthly?
We do not reward attention-seeking behavior.
There we have it. So here's the pitch that I gave to him. It's just one sentence. It's a podcast called, quote, Butt, B-U-T, comma, Rock, question mark. So a podcast called Butt Rock, where we discuss butt rock bands in depth.
Now, let's pick this bone that you have with me, Mr. John.
Not even a
firstly,
response?
So you, as you said, sent this to me at 2 a.m.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So I was well and gone.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a good morning text.
And when I woke up, I was still waiting on test results to see whether or not my girlfriend won the fucking Wonka's golden ticket of getting COVID after being inoculated. And whether or not I was sharing in the joy. So you were the last thing on my mind when I first rolled over and met the doom of this day. And I smiled because I just wanted to get it out of the way, and then I started my day off right. So yeah, and furthermore, there was no other subtext. You had not sent anything else, and it was just this random cocaine-addled shot in the dark.
Excuse
at which point
you.
I was just like,
excuse you. Weed. Copious amounts of weed.
Well, you're not supposed to twitch that way, so I didn't know you like to get wet, though.
Oh,
Dus, PCP.
man.
So yes, it sounds interesting. I would totally be down if it weren't for the fact that every single time I try to do one of the established things that we do on this show, you can't fucking help but find another thing to do, or an excuse, or a dog's asshole you gotta go lick, or something that you need to pick up for your wife because you know, just desperately need to clean things around the house, and so it's like, yeah, no, I can't record a fan fiction, man. I got shit to do. I got a life. I'm missing out on a lot of good things. But yeah, let's add another podcast into the mix. Let's do that. And I'm sure you're dedicated enough.
Well, yeah, I can't do the fan fiction because my dog Loki, the boxer, he does have needs. He needs his anal glands expressed every single Wednesday around 8 p.m. And who's going to do it? Is Becky going to do it? If anyone's going to express Loki's anal glands, it's going to be me.
Yeah, you've got those horse lips, just prepped and puckered. Just squeeze that goop right out of there.
You don't need peanut butter to have fun with a dog. That's all I'm trying to say.
I've said it for years.
You have, and that's on record. He has been standing by that for years. You just need amyl nitrate. That's not a lie. That's not a bit. That's 100% Shane's take.
Yep. You just need amyl nitrate, a crowbar, and a 6-foot hole.
I have pornographic films.
If Meryl Streep's skeleton went around at a party trying to be real nice to everybody.
Right. Well, hey, congrats on not having COVID.
Thank you. Well, I'm still
Courtney,
not confirmed.
You too. Fuck.
Yeah, they have not gotten my test results to me because a place that will not be named is very efficient at caring about people's health and welfare. So we're just going to disregard that altogether and move on. But 100 crazy episodes of this nonsense, friends. I'm shocked.
Will it let you put an emoji as a title for the episode?
I don't know.
Because
you should
I'm not sure.
Just put the 100 emoji, and that's what we are today.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
But
I've never gotten 100% on anything, so at least I got 100 episodes.
This is a big accomplishment for you.
Yeah. Though he actually doesn't have 100% attendance on the episodes.
You can fuck right off. I would say we're in the trenches. I would say that every My Immortal read on the back half of an episode counts as its own episode. So technically, we are past 100 episodes.
So pitch me on another podcast again.
It's called Joke Toilets, where we just talk about toilets made for farts, only made for farts. Where they are.
Did Dwan give you that idea?
Yeah, actually. Dwan and I are mutual. We have mutual stake in the business. So
I'm not shocked.
Hi, Dwan.
Oh, wait,
we love you, baby.
I thought we were starting another podcast called How Did White People Ruin It This Time? And it's a podcast about everything.
We'd never stop.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Dwan because...
I thought you were going to say it's funny that you mentioned white people.
No. Because you know who else I sent that quote-unquote cocaine-addled thought to? Dwan. And you know what Dwan said to me?
I bet he was supportive.
He said, is this a serious pitch for a show? And I said, I don't know. It could be if I ever had time. And he said, let's do it. And I said, no. But if it ever did happen, if Butt Rock ever happened, it would have to be said like that too. It would. I think it would be the three of us, Shane. I think it would be Dwan, you, and
no,
I.
Dwan and I are actually going to just start doing it now, since
Fuck
apparently
yourself.
the two of us are able to pull the trigger on concepts. I have the time. I can make it. There's nothing that's so important to me that I can't. Not even my band is important enough for me to make time for anymore. So,
out of
my own chicken lips.
The reason Butt Rock came on my head, is because I was thinking about like all the bands that you and I really enjoy that you're proud to be fans of, but I necessarily don't want to like brandish about. Like sometimes I like listening to Cold still because it was a place in time, or like your defense of Nickelback, which is arguably the butt rock band, But like if you go to the beginning of when they started being a group, as you've done in prior episodes and After Darks, like you see that there's merits and there's reasons that they're successful. I don't know. That was the bit. That's a little more detailed that I was going to include on the text, but then I was too tired to really flush out.
Well, I have also never considered myself to be an apologist for Nickelback, by the way.
Never.
I will just say, there are things about some of the music that I still enjoy very much. But once pants and feet started being added into lyrics, I tapped out.
Well, you look so much cuter with something in your mouth. Isn't that one of their
pizza.
songs?
I
Isn't
have
that-
87
Yes,
different
yeah,
fucking pictures of it. So
Gross.
I mean, he didn't make it this far just shaking hands, so
Is that a lyric,
that's
Michael?
yes, yeah.
So what you're telling me is that you've never seen an A24 movie, but you can, off the cuff, do an esoteric Nickelback quote?
I have seen an A24 film. I've seen multiple.
Name 5.
Midsummer.
Damn it.
Heredity. Whatever.
Oh,
That'll
Yeah,
lead
there's
into
a
that. But
TikTok
before you
for
do
you.
that,
yeah.
hold on. And then I actually recently watched The Witch
Nice. You got 2
Whoa.
more.
last week. 2 more. Isn't there?
Come
no,
on,
there's.
baby.
I don't know. I don't want to guess.
You're so close. It's like you're like at the front of the line of a sprint, and you get to the finish line, and you're like, yeah, and you just blow your fucking brains out.
Hey, Michael
sounds
is
like me.
treating this question the same way he treats his education. Start strong, never finish.
I love you,
11 years
Michael.
in.
I'm sorry. I pulled one. I'll get back to you mispronouncing hereditary. But I took a page out of your book this week, Michael, and I had Becky read my script because I'm insecure, and I was like, hey, does this
Confirmation.
sound dumb? Because this is a science thing, and I have no business
which
at all
point,
talking about this.
Becky
shit.
says, "You're so pretty."
She goes, I don't have room on my caseload for you, but I'm gonna try.
Are you my friend? Will you read my podcast script?
She read my script, and she's like, you guys are really mean to Michael. And she's never listened to an episode, so she just saw my script. She goes, you talk about Michael an awful lot on this episode.
Oh no!
And I said, yeah, it's
I'm
kind of the
scared.
bit. And then
It's true.
it's not that bad. It's so tame compared to what we've said before. It's about
Okay, I'm
each,
still
like
scared.
we've said worse things about each individual on the show than my comments about you. But we need to acknowledge real quick that Courtney is a ball of light in a very dark world, and she's also now TikTok famous, which is
Oh,
really
yeah.
weird.
Ooh.
Wow.
I think you got more views on 2 TikToks than we've gotten maybe on our whole YouTube page.
It's not shocking.
And to be fair, like the first TikTok that you posted was, I'm not saying the quality was garbage, but it was like a random clip because you were just testing it out to see if you could do it.
Yeah.
And then we
So
looked,
what John's trying to say is if he's making a joke, then it's genius, pure gold.
Uh-huh.
If I'm making fun of him, it's just a random bit. You know, it's just a thing.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
There's no import
but,
to this
well,
at all.
hold on. No. Because the
no,
second,
that's what we're driving at.
because the second one, or the most recent one that you posted, is a Shane clip, and it did equally as well. Like another
They're
Shane
both
clip.
Shane clips, motherfucker.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, so
Yeah,
so
because I make the punchline of the first one, friend.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's
So
right.
yeah, I know you're so egocentric that you can't imagine anybody else is on the fucking call with you, but other
Wait.
people are contributing to the show.
Wait,
Jesus?
what show?
Huh?
Exactly. Anyway, continue. Please continue edifying Courtney because it's a requirement and it's well worth it.
Yes. Well, one, Courtney, thank you for trying to get us hip with what's hip.
Uh-huh.
Bless you.
The U's.
And then we had an idea of something that we need to bring back. Speaking of 100 episodes and kind of being retrospective,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what episode it was, or if what
we
episode
did it
was it, Shane?
once. It was pre-COVID,
Mhm.
the before times,
The
as
before
people call
times.
it now.
We or Shane.
And also,
rather.
it was when we were batch recording, so technically we did it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
It was just all in
True.
one night, so it kind of throws it out of perspective.
We really love that Michael has a really big heart and a big brain, but for some reason, just when words hit his eyeballs and they try and come out his mouth, they just are a little
There's a
marbled, a little
disconnect.
mushed.
He's got Dick Sklex.
So we want to use TikTok as the appropriate platform to kind of make a game show for our beloved Michael
Mm-hmm.
and
Ugh.
do a pronunciation game. So be on the lookout for that. And if you want to find our TikTok, it's just Disinformed Podcast.
You made it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's at Disinformed Podcast.
Well,
I just
Um,
upload the quality material to it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
so the title of this segment is now Dick's Let's See Ya.
Well, he's less distic, so.
Indeed. Well,
True.
Since we went from, all that is radiance and light with Courtney's marvelous efforts to make us semi-relevant, and that's a Herculean task, I assure you. But for the apotheosis to be complete, let's dive back down into the darkness here and the continuing saga of Shane Reed's Stephen King that is autobiographical.
I meant to send you a screenshot, but I have borrowed the audiobook.
Bless you. You're going to enjoy it. So I have finished Revival, and I've already hard sold this to John enough, but let me give a little hook to Michael now.
Uh-oh.
And Courtney, I have a feeling that you've appreciated enough King to this point that you'll just take it if I say I enjoyed something. You might run with it.
Sure.
But Michael has to be coaxed, it seems. After we get through the whole end, the original pitch that I had after reading the first half of the book was that it is something that would be akin to if... and now I'm just going to lose it, but if Jim Jones met Keith Richards. Okay?
Oh, I have to process that.
and that is enough of a weird sort of dynamic to begin with. But at the end, there is a very dramatic sort of Shyamalan-esque pivot.
Huh.
And then they get Lovecraftian.
Well, those are goosebumps. Yes,
And,
I think you saw it.
So
You had his
to give you
attention.
the,
Ew.
I was
Goosebumps,
finishing.
not an erection.
Is that different for you?
Yes.
He got
I think they're
R.L.
the same
Stein
size.
goosebumps.
Oof.
So I was finishing the book in the midst of my feverish, lovely girlfriend having fits in our bedroom. So I'm like, I'll go in the other room. I'll finish the audiobook. And I started kind of getting, sleepy. So I grabbed the book to think if like the change would get, because I've had the physical copy for a while. I just, decided to go with the audiobook. And I got towards sort of the end here, and I was like, it was only about 30 pages. I'm probably going to wind up falling asleep. So I went back to the audiobook, and it woke me up. And actually, it is one of the most, like, terrifying concepts for the end of a King book that I've encountered. Because a lot of things are like, okay, I get it. It's existential dread, or it might have some other things, or there's some weird sort of slapsticky horror elements that are scary, but after a while, the sting kind of falls out pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Like, Pennywise, there's a lot of terrifying moments, but it kind of becomes laughable at points, just dependent upon how he delivers jokes. It gets Freddy Krueger.
True.
This legit, had me sitting up in bed, and I had to walk around. And I went and got the book and reread the last 10 pages again, because it gave me shivers.
Ooh.
And I'm like, okay, it's really bizarre, and you're going to read it and probably go like, okay, you oversold this, because, but for me, somebody who has appreciated the oeuvre, to watch King kind of walk up to that wall and say, here, I'll put a fresh coat of paint on it, really hit me in all of the appropriate places, and this book is like vaulted into my top 5 King books now.
Oh,
So
well.
I'm very keen on hearing everybody else's impressions when we get here, just to see whether this is a shared experience. But if I went down the checklist of the things I love about Stephen King and all of them got represented in a single book, it would probably be Revival at this point.
Well,
So that's what required me to give you an update. Otherwise, I would have left it alone.
well, shit, guys. Do we want to start a book club and report back in a month after we've all read Revival and talk about it on an episode? Or a YouTube episode?
Sure, and I
Ooh.
just
Courtney?
purchased it, so
I am a
I'm
woman
ready to
and
go.
I can read, so
That's more than I can say.
You're advanced.
I know.
Does
I
Jonah
still-
know?
No, don't tell him.
I
Are you
did this
trying
with-
to get me thrown in the pit? God, John.
Oh, man.
I did this with Melissa the other day as well, because she made a similar sort of comment about being a woman and being lesser than or other. And I kind of joked, I was like, what is it that the Hunter Thompson line of like, this is my attorney? I think he's Samoan, and in spite of his racial handicap, he's very important to me.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I was like, it's one of the most horrific lines out of Fear and Loathing, but I said that to Melissa and cracked her up because it's like, yeah, this is how I'm gonna officially introduce you to everybody now. It's like, this is my girlfriend, and in spite of her handicap based on her gender, she is very important to me.
Also, I want to say that I am sorry, Melissa, if you're listening, because not to share too much of her details, her birthday was recently passed, and I DM'd her on Instagram on her birthday to say happy birthday, and it's the standard fare, and I mean it. It's like, I hope you have a super great day. It's relaxing and everything you want it to be. So it's that day. I send the message, and then you can't make it up. Like, I think within an hour we were talking in the band thread, and Shane was informing us that she's been sick and she's bedridden and definitely not having the most fun day of all time. And Melissa is such a sweetheart through and through that I think her response back a day later was something to the effect of, thank you so much for saying happy birthday to me. It didn't go quite as planned, but I still had a good time. Like, she's too good of a fucking person just to be like, you know what? I was sick. I was just dog shit sick. I don't know. But anyway, Melissa, I am sorry for my poor timing, and I do sincerely hope that you feel better soon.
Yeah, that was a wonderful string. So we started feeling squirrely after recording last week. Oh. And so I woke up Thursday morning, and she woke up Thursday morning, and we're both like, I feel like I'm getting a sore throat. Like, I feel real scratchy. And we both shared that, and we both went to work and just kind of muscled through. I came home from work feeling fine and sounding very much like I do now, maybe a little snarfly, but that's about it. And Melissa came home sounding like this. And like, I really had a rough day at work, and I'm starting to feel a little sick, and they told me I sounded horrible and congested. It's like, yeah, no, you sound incredibly congested. You sound like you're getting sick. And it just started to crescendo into Friday, and she was feverish and delirious and like coughing, hacking, sniffing, like, and has been sick since. Like, is still had a bit of a fever this morning. So it's been a heck of a ride. So no 4th of July celebratory joy, no birthday joy, none of this. She's just been in bed.
It's just been a black hole at the Hunt household.
Yeah, it is. It's been a heck of a time. So we're all a little short of energy. So if I'm not quite rattling off my usual sort of verbal gymnastics here, it's because I'm still trying to get back to the land of the living.
You at 60% is most people trying their hardest. So
bless you.
I was gonna say him at
you're doing
30% is still better than me at 200. So.
And here I called you egotistical earlier, and you're trying to make me feel better.
Aw, shucks.
You would have to have
Who's
feelings.
my bottom bitch?
Kiss,
Who is it?
Kiss. No, kiss.
All right, let me bend over. Hold on. I also need my anal glands exercised. So.
Or do you think I learned how to do it to Loki?
It's a fine point. I'm not as distended yet.
I'm not as shy to a brown eye, and I stand by that.
Yeah, my asshole is like a nerd's rope at this point with all of this, accoutrement. Hemorrhoids are dangerous, kids. Just be careful.
And this is 100 episodes of content that you asked for. This is the content that you've been coming back for. Or not. You could be like one of those fucking assholes on YouTube that wants to say that we're on the Laffy Tobacco. Joke's on you. I eat my weed. No, actually, the joke
package
is on me because you said it was gummy bears, so I guess I can fuck myself twice. God damn it.
Oh, man.
Is this what it's like when the terrorists fucking win?
On a beautiful segue, another podcast that we adore and love, The Last Podcast on the Left, which, thank you, I still enjoy that. They started having very interesting ads recently, and I'm not sure if you've encountered these yet, but the trolley ads,
my God, yeah. Describe them, because I don't think Michael and Courtney have heard them, right?
They describe it's like this thing is like a 15-minute commercial that just pops up in the middle of episodes, because, of course, I'm listening on Spotify. They're exclusive to Spotify,
exclusive
right?
to Spotify, yes,
okay.
Sir.
So they have dedicated commercial timing, and all of a sudden it just cuts to Ben Kissel doing this very interesting, like, it's 8 o'clock on a Monday and you are really hungry. And he's going, it's like, but you've got meetings that you got to go log into, but you don't turn your camera on because you're disheveled and you don't want to do your hair. And you don't want your boss to see you like this. Like, it's getting like 6th level Inception on this whole thing. And then all of a sudden there's a plastic bag that gets pulled over your head and you're careened off into the trunk of a car. And then you're driven off into this place and you're, buried in 6 feet in the ground and hearing dirt hitting the top of whatever you're in. And all of a sudden, in the midst of having this plastic over your head, you hear this glorious, beautiful sound of singing like angels. And then suddenly there's this sugary taste of something on your lips, and you realize the bag has lettering on it, and it's Elordi. And the whole thing goes around to is like, all of a sudden you discover as you're being buried alive that it's a bag of trolley, like, gummy worms that you've had placed over your head. And you eat the gummy worms and you're able to project beautiful light out of your body, and it breaks out of the sarcophagi that you've been entombed or enshrined in. And it beams out into the night sky to try to bring you help. But you've eaten all of the trolley because they're so delicious and the light's starting to fade. And like,
And what Shane isn't mentioning here is that it's a full audio play, essentially,
yes.
where
so
there are sound effects,
and
there's sound steps, there's the sounds of the paper bag and everything. And Shane, I can tell you almost exactly how long the commercial is. It might feel like 15 minutes. It's 1:45 because I was driving into work when I first heard that ad, and in my car, like, it'll stop showing last spot and it'll show advertisement, and then it'll say who it's for. So the bit was ruined. They've been sponsored by Trolleys for a while, but that is the only ad that I've heard that's that intricate. It is very, very fucking jarring in the middle of the episode.
Yeah.
But also, how do we get them?
I don't know.
Well,
how do you get ads? AIDS? Ads?
One is anyway.
Back to the hepatitis again.
As far as I'm aware, if we just become popular enough,
we're never getting ads.
So yeah,
or we mention them frequently enough, and one of their, I guess, marketing reps or something notices they can offer an
you mean
spot to
like
us.
the gal who tried to get us to pay to play for their ball shavers?
Yeah.
Oh.
Which, kudos to them. But long story short, too fucking late, as per usual, I actually bought myself a bag of Trolleys today.
Did you really? So
it works.
Yeah,
I was going to say.
I was like, that sounded delicious. The second they started talking about it, I was like, ooh, yes.
I haven't had one of those in a hot minute.
They're delectable. I really enjoyed
the sour
it.
ones?
And the thing that sold me was the chewing noises from the background of the ad.
Oh.
Where it's like that gummy kind of like...
God damn, I never, not to pull Ben Kissel's thing, but on my bingo card, I never had Shane Hunt being obsessed with ASMR on there.
True.
I did not have that on my life bingo card.
And no one did, strangely enough. But now we know. And knowing's half the butthole. G.I.ho.
That's what they say.
Amen.
So, for those of you who want to pull yourselves up out of the grave without the benefit of Trolleys screaming to the sky that you have been entombed, let me bring you to the surface. Because what we typically do on this podcast is we will delve into a random esoteric topic, and in the course of illuminating it to the rest of the co-hosts, we will leaven in the occasional lie, because that's the whole point of the show, as we learned from Michael in episode 1 with fake cheese. Still one of the greatest experiences that we have had.
Oh.
And still our most popular episode through, no fault of our own. But so once we have explained, it is incumbent on those of us listening and somewhat paying attention to ferret out the lies, sort the fact from fiction, and scream posse at them occasionally. And so that is what we are here to do today, for a particular rarity amongst our throng, insofar as John is going to be gracing us with one of his exceedingly well-researched topics, and I'm giddy. Sort of weird goose are you fucking in there, friend?
Honk.
Well, thank you,
So what are we
Wayne.
talking about, John?
Well, first off, there are going to be 4 lies today.
Okay.
So we can rule out that the lie is that there's no lies.
Yes, you can rule that out.
Oh, phew.
So Joe Rogan, like I mentioned last week, is yet again
Joe
going to be
Rogan.
mentioned on this show. And this
Trigger
time,
warning.
Yeah, trigger warning. This time, this time not accompanied by Corbell and Alien Talk, but instead Elon
Thanks,
Musk.
fuck.
Trigger warning.
Also trigger warning. On episode 1169,
Nice.
Elon Musk famously, lit up a joint during the interview. And that's when he brought up the theory that we might, in fact, be living inside a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then games will be indistinguishable from reality, or civilization will end. One of those two things will occur. Elon essentially is borrowing from Nick Bostrom, who first proposed the simulation theory in 2003 in this hypothesis. As computers are getting exponentially more powerful each year, future civilizations will have a level of computing power that vastly exceeds ours by orders of magnitude. We already simulate life in many ways through computers, from video games to art and scientific research. These future civilizations may simulate the universe from the start up to their lifetime to understand the universe and humanity's past in exquisite detail. This means that there is another simulation within this simulation that simulates the first simulated universe.
I'm overstimulated by simulation.
I'm overstimulated.
I want to take 1 second to disrupt your flow, and I'm loath to do it, but I like that this person's claiming that they came up with this theory in 2003 when the fucking Matrix came out in like 99 and predates all of this.
Fucking happy you said that, because that's exactly what I was thinking the entire time I was researching.
Like, I came up with this brilliant concept. Like, we could go find sap that's got like an insect in it, and we could use that to get dinosaur DNA, and we could recreate dinosaurs, man. Like, this amazing idea just came to me.
Somebody at the coffee table, they're like, yeah, that makes sense because life finds a way. But back to Bostrom, he says but then the second one, the simulated universe, also has a simulation, and so on and so on. So there are billions of simulations within simulations, all of which host all of human history. This means there are billions of identical virtual yous that are living the same life. So the chances that you are the original you, and not one of the many simulated ones, is 1 in a billion.
So it's VR string theory.
No,
Yes.
So he's watched Rick and Morty once.
God, you guys are my friends, and this is the proof right here. And from this, we can conclude that we are likely in a simulation. I feel like you guys have already simulated. You guys have already kind of got to this point, but simply put, reality is merely an ultra high-tech computer simulation in which we sim live, sim work, sim laugh, sim love, and in Michael's case, sim simp.
Ooh.
Wait, how am I a simp?
Do you even know what that word means?
Yeah.
I
Michael?
do. I'm hip with the youths.
Oh
I know what
my God.
simping means.
To put it simply.
Yeah, are you saying he's simple or a simp or both?
Yes.
Yeah, because one is correct, one is not.
Reality used to be a friend of mine.
Now, I don't know if any of you are current on this season of Rick and Morty, season 5.
I'm
I've
golden
watched
current.
the first because it's the only one that I could find on YouTube.
Well, he controls the police.
He does.
Episode 2 is mind-fucking the way that Nick Bostrom is describing. And then, to Shane's point, I said further back, just look at the Matrix.
It's the smell.
It's the smell.
I'm infected by it. Saturated with it.
But why would simulations exist in the first place? Mr. Bostrom speculates that maybe future advanced civilizations would use this tech as an ancestry simulator, kind of like a virtual history book to see what past civilizations had done before them. Frankly, a fair amount of people think Bostrom was onto something. Some even referenced earlier examples of other inquisitive minds such as Stephen Hawking and Plato. Plato describes in his book Allegory of a Cave, which was written as a dialogue between Plato's brother and Socrates, describes a group of people who have lived chained to the wall of a cave all their lives, facing a blank wall. The people watch shadows projected on the wall from objects passing in front of a fire behind them and give names and jobs to these shadows. The shadows are the prisoner's reality, but are not accurate representations of the real world. So Socrates in this explains how the philosopher in this allegory are like a prisoner who is freed from the cave and comes to understand that the shadows on the wall are actually not reality at all. A philosopher aims to understand and perceive the higher levels of reality. However, the other inmates of the cave do not even desire to leave their prison, for they know no better life. It's like in the allegory itself, like one of the people exit the cave, see everything going on, and no one will join them.
It's the Ex Machina Jane in the Grey Box sequence.
I need to rewatch that movie.
You do.
It's been a good long while.
But just jive with me for a second, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So if you had to guess, how likely do you think it is that our perceived reality is all a big simulation?
Oh, wow. That's a staggering number to try to come to terms with.
It's just not.
Michael, you're a person that science
thanks.
is...
That's the best compliment I've ever gotten.
You're welcome. Well, if you had to take a stab, what would you say?
I'd say probably not.
Okay,
That's
well,
not a number, you scientific frog and
I'm
a
just
liar.
gonna say no. I'm just gonna say no.
It's
I refuse to.
It's 60-40 or 60-40 in favor.
According to whom?
Scientific
it was-
American
Okay.
publication.
All right. Who did they poll? Do you know?
Me.
I'm just curious.
I'm not gonna
They
lie to you
pulled
guys.
John
Do you really
10
think?
times.
Do you really think that I looked at who they sourced on
This
that?
is an opinion piece.
Yeah,
by
this is
John.
definitely opinion piece.
It's an editorial.
Yeah. 60-40, man.
No, they took like Bostrom into account. Tyson, Musk, like other
Mike?
no
Yeah,
Neil.
obviously.
This
Neil.
all simulation, motherfucker.
It's all simulation.
No,
Yeah,
this
but
is
I
real.
actually did
How
kill
the
him.
fuck do you think
I
I
did-
got a tiger and a killer right here?
I
That's
did.
not
I
real.
did kill. It is registered as a lethal weapon.
The tiger or his right hand?
Yes,
Both.
Yes, true. Can I call bullshit on the 60-40 then?
it is. It is not 60-40. The article says 50-50.
Okay, even
It was a
worse.
number lie.
It doesn't
Haha.
It literally just says it's a coin toss.
Yeah, zero-sum game.
And then there's also there's a lot of people, and I don't remember if this is further down my script. I'll just omit it. A lot of scientists aren't really happy with the theory, mainly because there's no real way to
Test it.
test it. And that's exactly what science is about, is being able to test these things. So I read something earlier today about Occam's razor, which is, in the
Beautiful.
yeah, exactly. So like the most beautiful. Fuck you. When there
So
is like a
shiny.
lack of evidence, or if there's so many things present, the most simple solution is oftentimes the correct one for the moment. So people are just like, well, we don't have enough evidence at this point to say that we are in a simulation. So the most likely thing is that we're not. So we're just going to go with that. It's the thing we can tangibly kind of grasp on.
Yeah, it's to your point to tickle Michael's taint a little bit with this. This is something that I was always fascinated with when we start talking about the things that we know relative to our own creation or the Big Bang Theory or looking at black holes. It's like, well, the observable phenomena that we have, the things that we are able to study and extrapolate from would point to this. So it's never like with 100% certainty we can say this. Now, often these things will out. In particular, a lot of the black hole theory that we're seeing proved these days, and not the kind that you can find on Pornhub. But it's just, I always found that fascinating when we look back to the Big Bang, where I'm like, okay, well, if we're saying there was just no matter whatsoever, I'm like, what galvanized this? Like, one of those mysteries that we still can't necessarily just drill down on and say, we know. It's just like, well, we couldn't observe it. So same general principle applying here is like, well, we would never know if we were in a simulation. We'd have to be outside of the Matrix to see into it. So it's
Right,
like, we
kinda
can't
like
go
that,
back and prove the Big Bang.
That moment in the final Matrix movie where they're unplugged and they're in the craft, and I think it's the only moment in the entire trilogy where you see actual sunlight from the actual universe.
Where they go above
Yeah, they
the
go
cloud,
above the
yeah.
clouds, and it's this beautiful moment, and then everything goes and descends back into chaos and bullshit. Yeah. So, assuming that we are in a simulation, blah, 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 that also means that there are many more simulations existing in tandem, which, follow me here, means that there is a existence where Michael can pronounce everything correctly.
Oh my god.
I don't know if I believe that. I think that's a bullshit lie.
And at that, just because I did the preamble here, I think that's the last mention of Michael. So those 2 Michael jokes.
That's it?
That was enough for Becky to be like, God, you guys are really going in on Michael. I was like,
she's
bitch, you
so
have
nice.
no idea.
I love her.
Okay, well, let's do
Wow.
equal representation here. There is a universe where Courtney is healthy as a horse,
Oh,
has absolutely nothing. No malady can touch her. She's impervious to it. There's one where I am wafer thin and capable of running long distances at speed without death or dismemberment. And there's one where John, Quab help me, has rhythm and is willing to do research.
I mean, I'm already half correct here. I have like 6 sources on this episode, guys.
Oh my god.
Oh, shit.
We're proving
100
of
is where we
tabs.
turn the corner for you, John?
Yeah, I feel like a changed man. I have an idea to pitch off air that I talked to Michael about earlier as well. That you
a
guys
little
might find
motivation's a
interesting.
dangerous thing.
Yeah. Also, just because we were discussing alternate timelines, Jonah mentioned something to me. I don't remember the context.
You mean Noah
Noah? Yeah, sorry, Noah.
in an alternate timeline?
I think in an alternate timeline, Jonah is just straight up living his best life as a gay man.
With you?
Yeah, with me, probably. He dropped.
I mean, I didn't think about that, but
I don't know
maybe.
where he got this term. Courtney, if you remember, please help.
No, yeah. Go ahead
Okay.
and just tell it.
He described himself recently as zesty straight, and it fucking broke my brain because I think that's exactly how I identify as well. Because you're not quite metrosexual, you're not quite homosexual, but you do have like some tendencies that fall between those 2 markers.
Why the zest?
So
Because it's like Salt Bay. He's like Salt Bay gay.
yeah, just like spicy. No, he got that actually. It was a TikTok that I saw, and this girl had a bag of seasoned fries, and they were like, "Actually, I identify the same as this bag of fries, zesty straight."
That's
And I
even
was
better
like,
than I could've
Jonah
thought.
is a bag of fries, so this makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, if anybody asks me
Okay.
my what I
It's your
identify
sexual
as,
orientation.
yeah, I'm zesty straight from here on out.
Okay.
Well-
I identify as a washing machine because I'm swishy and straight.
Okay.
What?
I mean,
I don't
I-
understand.
Courtney, don't be insensitive. It's 2021. He can be
Oh.
he
That's
can be
fair.
a washer if he wants to be a
Okay.
what.
I
sorry for
have a for those
I
who
gotta go
want
back
to
to
drill down
therapy.
on. I had joked about this with my mom. The common run, as I said, she did everything in her power to queer me up when I was younger, but she told me to cry whenever an emotion strikes me, and that taking bubble baths is a perfectly masculine thing, and I should not be ashamed of this at all. And I really love like aromatic candles and watching films where I cry constantly emotionally, and so I'm
I can't even talk.
pretty flamboyant.
You just
can't-
like good things, then. I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
understand.
can't-
Yeah, I
I
agree.
can't talk shit about that because right now, like, the main thing keeping me from taking bubble baths, which do sound amazing and are amazing,
Perfect.
is that
Mhm.
I'm too fucking tall and I don't have a tub
Oh.
that can really like comfortably fit me.
I feel
You-
that.
Look who you're talking to.
I'm taller than you.
That's fine. I'm wider than you.
Bathtubs are wide.
They have to splash me with water like I'm, beached whale over here. I can't get anything into the tub, otherwise it's just going to froth out, so I have to just kind of spitz myself with the 2 inches that I can get under my body in the tub. But they're bubbly, goddammit.
You have fucking killed Courtney.
I saw. It makes me giddy.
There's
it's a bath
there's
of
your
shame,
clip.
really. It's called Sponge Bath Shane Pants over here. All right, I'm done.
That's brilliant.
Got to get the fluffs and folds. It's like filling in a form. I have to get all the blank spaces moist,
And
purge
folks,
out whatever cheese is stuck there, and then go back to bed.
steak.
Ooh.
And listeners, that's Shane at 60%.
60% Shane.
40%.
Salty
40,
Michael.
43% Michael.
43% Michael. Yes.
Well, hey, let's get back here. Let's look at five considerations that would impact whether this theory could be true.
I'm intrigued.
Number 1.
Name 5.
I'm about to.
Ooh.
It is possible to simulate consciousness. So this is an interesting fact that I learned, or that I saw in one of my sources, which was Michael, you're going to help me here. Kurzgesagt.
Oh, Kurzgesagt.
There we go. It's impossible
What?
for me. Yeah, it's a
It's-
word that you
You'll
can
clean it
pronounce
up.
that I can't.
It's German for in a nutshell,
Sick.
essentially.
So I learned this fact from him, and that for this possibility to be true, we would need a computer with the ability to perform 1,000,000 trillion operations per second. And that is not bullshit.
It's a lot.
It's a pretty big number.
So for us to be able to simulate consciousness, that's what it would take. So number 2.
Or just have a, Blue Book feeding everything into Ava.
I don't think I understand the
Kelly
reference.
Blue Book?
It's another Ex Machina reference, so that's you're down
I'm
to-
gonna rewatch that tonight or tomorrow for sure.
I'm holding serve right now, which is really good.
In fact, if Jonah, I know we're gonna watch a horror movie later, but we might just need to watch Ex Machina.
We've never seen it.
I think it would be fun.
According to Melissa, it's a piece of shit. So
Oof.
Well, I'm about to say the first bad thing I've ever said about Melissa.
I disagree with her opinion. That's,
Yes,
as
we're
I said,
sorry.
Melissa, I do not appreciate your take.
Ooh.
I do not like your moxie, madam.
I think
No,
it would
that
be
was
impossible to say anything mean to Melissa. Like,
oh well, it's not impossible. I can guarantee it.
and that's called relationships.
Love, true love.
Oh, I was joking last night because we're sitting there. It's just personal information be damned. But she turned to me after she got her results this morning, and she's like, "Wouldn't it be funny if I don't have it, but you were COVID positive after your test?" I'm like, "Oh, so now you're just willing COVID on me just so that you can feel better about my not being sick?" No, I'm just saying it's funny. I was like, that's cold. That's really just to try to make yourself feel better for being sick on your birthday. Now you want me to get COVID.
I feel. Let's indulge the tangent for just a second because I feel like we can all jump in on this shit. Similarly, in my relationship, Becky and I went to the gym today. Stopped at CVS because I needed something, and I was heading back to my house. And I was about to hit the light. The light turns yellow, and I put on my brakes, and I stop at the light, and immediately Becky yells. She goes, "You could have fucking gone through that." And I was like, "I'm sorry." I was like, "Do you want to drive your fucking self next time?" As relationship arguments go. And then I was like, I don't know where you learned how to drive, but yellow does not mean speed up. It means fucking slow down. So
learned from
if you want to
Starman.
teach me how to drive, show me the course. And then 30 seconds go by, and it's like, "Hey, sorry, I was telling you how to fucking drive." It's like, "Yeah, sorry, I snapped at you."
Yeah, that responds to me like, "Oh, I'm sorry that I hold your life so dear that I didn't want to endanger it by careening through an intersection."
Damn,
But
this guy
sure.
gets it.
Yeah, next time I'll happily make sure that I turn towards whatever incoming traffic with your door. So I'll at least walk away from this fucking thing, and I will send my regards and some flowers to your family. Want me to be your lead-foot assassin over here, for Christ's sakes.
You know what, Shane? In another existence of our simulation, that definitely happened today.
Yep.
In a tandem universe. Okay, so
Crash,
yeah.
the film.
Point 1 of theories to consider that would impact whether this theory could be true is that it's possible to simulate consciousness. Point
Yeah.
2, or consideration 2, technological progress will not stop anytime soon. So pretty self-explanatory on this, but another interesting nugget from Michael's favorite YouTuber is the concept of, I'm going to butcher this as well, Matryoshka's brain. Spelled out for Shane.
I
Matrioshka.
Matryoshka?
Sure. Anyway,
Sure.
now the listeners know too. But this is a hypothetical megastructure of immense computational capacity powered by a Dyson Sphere. A Dyson Sphere being a hypothetical megastructure that completely encompasses a star and captures a large percentage of its power output.
I thought it was a food processor.
I'm
It's
pretty
actually
sure
a
it's
vacuum. Yep.
As a woman, I can say I do know that it is a vacuum.
Oh, a cleaning device. I know those.
Damn.
She said
Go
it.
up, Courtney, fire back.
You're important, and you are kind, and you are respected.
We cherish and value you and your opinions.
Yeah.
You can talk.
Oh,
You have
okay, thanks.
you have our permission to speak.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank the Academy.
Sorry, God.
Domo.
Sorry, Courtney. So the Dyson Sphere is a thought experiment, essentially, that attempts to explain how a spacefaring civilization would meet its energy requirements once those requirements exceeded what can be generated from the home's planet's resources alone. Only a tiny fraction of a star's energy emissions reaches the surface of any orbiting planet. Building structures encircling a star would enable a civilization to harvest far more energy. So just more essentially just kind of counterpoints to these considerations of if it could, what it could.
Is the Dyson Sphere bullshit?
It's not.
No.
Okay. Okay, Michael.
Yeah.
I know
Look
what a
at
Dyson
you knowing
Sphere is.
something.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Well, I was nervous the moment that I started writing the episode out. I was like, I really shouldn't be the one that's doing this episode. I felt so out of place. Like, this has nothing to do with dick and fart jokes. It's not cool haunting conspiracies. It's not punk
You are giving
rock.
Michael a boner, so you're in your lane.
I'm trying to get him to shotgun blast one more time.
Matroshenka's blue balls over here.
Ooh. Tell me about that
Shank with
Dyson
blue
Sphere
balls.
again.
Number 3 would be advanced civilizations don't destroy themselves. So Shane, the ever-present Metallica fan in the room, would probably agree that we are hardwired to self-destruct. So why haven't we seen traces of true extraterrestrial life? The answer is that it all comes back to the concept of the Great Filter, which I have tapped Michael on the shoulder to explain for you guys.
Yeah. Which actually, that's kind of, you're talking about galaxy-spanning civilizations and everything. So we can think of the development of a galaxy-spanning civilization as taking place over discrete steps, like how to get to that point where you control the galaxy. Like, we can't colonize other planets if we haven't developed spaceflight. We can't build and maintain cities without developing tools. We can't get complex life without developing sexual organs for reproduction. Those sort of steps that you need in order to get to a galaxy-spanning civilization. However, since we haven't seen one from our perspective as humans, there are several possibilities as to why. The first is that we are the first civilization to get to where we are currently, or we will be the first one, in a sense, to get to galaxy-spanning civilization eventually.
We're number one. We're number one.
That's terrifying.
Make the universe great again.
Oh, stop.
Now that's going to keep me up tonight. The second, there is some Star Trek-style prime directive thing in place for these galaxy-spanning civilizations that prevent contact with more primitive civilizations like our own. These are both very Earth-centric ideas, in my opinion. First, saying that we're first to do it. There is a third option that is a lot more interesting / terrifying, depending on how you think about it. It would imply, based off the fact that we wouldn't be the first to get to this point, and that also there's no prime directive-esque thing going on, that there is some sort of great filter that no previous civilization has passed. So at some point in the development leading up to galaxy-spanning civilization, there is like a wall that all civilizations completely and utterly destroy themselves at. And it could be getting to other planets. It could be other steps in this, staircase, I guess, if you will.
A filter of progress.
Yes, yeah. And there's ways to think about it. I got a lot of this from watching another Kurzgesagt video that was about the Great Filter. It was a very great episode, and we'll try and link it in the show notes as well. Because if I could describe this channel a lot, it's a lot of existential crises.
It's happy dread.
Yes, my favorite video that they've done is Optimistic Nihilism?
Yeah,
which is probably like my favorite episode that they've done. But
me in the bathtub again.
Yes, but that's
and he's back in the bathtub again.
Dogs in the bathtub. Yep,
get him out.
But that's the whole idea of a great filter, is that we haven't seen any super advanced civilizations yet, most likely because there's some sort of wall that civilizations hit.
for an appropriate metaphor, drawing from what we have already multiple times, pulling fresh water from the well again, liberally lifting from the Matrix Reloaded, where they, the emissaries of the machine world essentially allow the human resistance to grow to a certain strength level, and then they wipe it out and start over again, and they are the ones who are seeding humanity back out.
Yeah.
Because they realize we thrive a little bit better when we have opposition. And so if we feel like we're struggling against something, we will be more inclined to be sort of subservient to the system if we feel we're fighting against it.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, I can see what you're saying in that. And in that case, yes. And because the machines themselves, they don't really have any sort of desire to leave Earth, in a sense, right? So in that case, that would be a great idea of the Great Filter, where there's a singularity, an AI singularity, that prevents growth off of the planet because the AI doesn't care about colonizing other planets. And if they're controlling the organic population to prevent them from colonizing, then that could explain that. That's a good theory in that case. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
So number 4 on the considerations. So super advanced civilizations want to run a simulation. It's if they want to run the simulation in the first place. The question being, why would they want to run a simulation? So assuming that these are post-human, or they're post-human entities, what benefit outside of like the ancestral simulator would they really want with us? Because perspective-wise, to them, we're ants. So what use do we truly have to them outside of maybe being a version of the Sims game? Like why we enjoy playing the Sims and trapping those characters in pools with no ways to get out until they drown and die. And then the fifth and final consideration is that if there are a lot of simulations, you're more than probably inside of one this very moment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, speaking back to The Sims.
That's a consideration against?
It's a consideration for the theory to be true.
Oh, okay.
And then speaking... go ahead. Sorry.
Is that bullshit?
It's
that
not
doesn't
bullshit.
Sound like a good...
So originally, the first 3 is what Bostrom proposed, if I'm remembering correctly. The other 2 were add-ons by Kurzgesagt.
Kurzgesagt?
Yeah,
okay.
Kurzgesagt, and he had a collaborator on that episode as well. And they also had a tie-in episode with the co-collaborator. That did make sense. Anyway, those are linked. Those are linked up the videos.
So the idea is essentially kind of what you're saying is that there is such a broad proliferation of, presuming upon the idea that there are simulations. There would be so many of them that the odds are we would have to be in one.
Right. And then what the argument becomes is at a certain point, the argument doesn't even rely on whether or not you're in a simulation. It becomes whether or not you are in the base reality.
Okay.
So the argument is that, yes, we are all in a simulation, but are we the simulation that simulates in the future, or are we already just being simulated?
Yeah.
It's weird
are we
fucky stuff.
the player, or are we the Sims?
Yeah, and to The Sims, there's fair comparison, I think, between that theory and looking at the correlation of how far we've come. And I think it's what Elon Musk was kind of mentioning, is how far graphically video games have come and processing power has come just in the past 30 years. And I've seen mentions in one of those videos of like VR tech. So like when you're playing VR, you have your Oculus on and you're playing Beat Saber, everything's existing in front of you. But
is this that Pornhub thing where you beat off in rhythm again?
Mm-hmm. Gross. But when you're playing Beat Saber and you're looking forward, technically nothing exists behind you until you turn around to look at it. So they brought up this theory that if we are being simulated, that the things that are simulated exist as we need them to until we dive deeper. So for example, like the chairs that we're sitting on exist in this form. Technically, they don't even have atoms or anything forming them until you would cut deeper into the layer. So think of that, again, you guys nailed it on the head with the Rick and Morty episode really fucking it up. It's season 1, I think, where
it's the Hungry for Apples episode.
yes, the Hungry for Apples episode is essentially what they're describing, and I can feel valid on those theories because of like VR and like seeing how crazy that shit can get. And when I was growing up thinking, and we're getting dangerously close already, of like video games are going to be hyper realistic to the point where you're not going to be able to discern. Point being, we're in the NBA finals right now, and the games are all on when I'm at work, and I turn around, and since I played during quarantine NBA 2K, I'm familiar with some of the camera angles that they use in the cutaway scenes, you know, when they're showing like breakaways. And the game was on, and I turned my head, and 2K, and they recreated it so fucking well. It was scary. It freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah, they actually have sweat running down people's faces in that game.
It's fucking terrifying.
It kind of throws you through a loop. Like, and even playing Red Dead as frequently as I do, like the fact that they emulate animal behavior and render it so brilliantly, and the thing occurs just completely in the background, apropos of nothing, until you start to interact with it, and then it will change. But, you know, there will be a bear just scratching its back against a tree somewhere, or two deer fighting one another, and it's just those sorts of things that, yes, within the observable spectrum, but all looks stunningly photoreal at this point, and that's still just barely operating off of a disc.
Yeah, and the thought...
So two things about that.
Sure.
First, Shane, were you aware of the air quotes controversy where they actually would simulate, I think it's horse testicles shriveling in the cold?
Yes, I have
you
seen
heard
that
heard about that in Red Dead 2?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
If you're noticing these things,
I don't know why
you must laugh when
they
someone
shrink.
says they got a swallow tattoo.
I suggested to Becky that she play Red Dead 2 next because you can focus on story, or you can be the person, that just explores this huge, massive world, and you can do nothing but just ride your horse and like look at the nature and just decompress that way. So I agree with you mostly that people that are finding shriveling horse testicles probably have a deeper problem to root out, but...
Or it's just, again, this is something that is so beautiful and true to life that they've even accounted for the fact that you will have shrunken testicles from time to time.
But those kind of processes that you brought up with like bears and the scratching themselves until you interact with them, it's similar to what I was mentioning about that chair theory, or about simulating what you need to see in the time. And the theory there, or that was speculated, is that that's a way for these super post-humans to save CPU. And with all the fucking issues that I've been having lately with CPU usage, I completely get it.
And this was the second point I wanted to make, was that why would you assume that it's computationally, they're saving on computational space for us when we're already in the simulation? Why would it need to, when all you need to do to simulate us is you don't need to replicate every single behavior that these post-humans have. You can just reduce... I guess what I'm trying to say is why would they assume that the CPU would change based off our own
it's because of how
observation? Are we players in this, or are we non-player characters or NPCs?
So,
that's the thing that I kind of like when I heard that. I got those discognizant vibes,
right? And you're also presupposing there's any limitation at all.
Yeah,
which
that's
is,
also true.
Where if they can create multiple simulations like that, why would they have any limitation?
Yeah, so there's another thing before, because you guys are kind of leading into my closing here.
Oh, okay.
No, you're good. It's kind of what's meant to happen. So we're knee-deep already, and the last fun thought that I put in here is that the last theory that they have, like kind of like piggybacking off the simulation theory, is that maybe the reason that we perceive the universe to still be growing and expanding is because the simulation hasn't fully loaded, and kind of like an AOL internet connection, it's still buffering.
That's so Earth-centric. That's so central to our own like interpretation of the universe that I feel like that you can't really count that it's like you guys
Are
said
you-
already earlier, where we're ants to them. Why would we project our own experiences about dial-up
Solipsism.
or loading screens and stuff and project that to these, post-human?
Yeah, because the only thing
Civilizations.
that we have as a frame of reference is what we've experienced
Yes.
empirically, alluding
Yeah.
to what we're talking about,
So-
previously.
Yeah, so what's been thrown around is that it creates this technological solipsism, in which Shane just killed it already. Yeah.
Well, bless you.
And then I even included a quote that Shane would appreciate that was at the tail end of the last video that I watched last night.
Mm.
Because I'm going to ask what you guys think and your opinions on whether or not, and Michael already said no, that we're living in a simulation. Because Philip K. Dick did argue that fake realities will create fake humans. How do I know that tasty wheat actually does taste like tasty wheat? Maybe to the
a fine
post-humans,
point.
what I think is tasty wheat actually tastes like corned beef.
Well, can I call bullshit on the Philip K. Dick quote purely because it's too much of a layup for me?
Nope, that's a Philip K.
Okay,
Dick
I'm
quote.
also wearing my Ubik shirt
Nice.
today, so I'm repping PKD as you say this, so that's why I had to ask.
Nope, but that's all I got for you guys. There's no conclusion really to this topic because there's no conclusiveness to the theory.
Right. And I will never say with 100% certainty, this is the reason why I hem and hawed earlier, is I will never say with 100% certainty that something absolutely cannot be the case. Because I think there is enough in the minimalist sort of anomalies that we encounter just day to day of the things that can never happen, of a mother being able to pick a car up off of her child. Like, these things are observable. We've encountered them. They're rare and anomalous, but they do still occur. So, for me to say just from my own perspective that, there's no chance whatsoever that we're in a simulation, it's a little bit outside of what I'm comfortable with. So I say, there's a chance. It certainly exists. It's not impossible. It's
Right.
improbable based on what we know. But again, that is presupposing we know enough to know what the limitations are. And we simply don't. If you can believe that there is a God out there, you can also believe that there is a machine brain a la Dune that is controlling the machinations of everything and is manifesting this reality as it sees fit.
Yeah.
That actually perfectly ties into what I was going to say as well, and I was going to use God analogy as well. I don't think so, but I also don't think about it because it's not something that you can test. And as someone
droid.
as someone that pretends to be a scientist most of the time, if it's not something that I can test or something that I can, research in a way that I can get not necessarily a conclusive answer, because that's not how science works, but something to where I can prove more definitively than a coin toss, if it's real or not, or if there's some sort of, answer to it, I won't think about it. It's the same thing for religion. It's the same thing for God. If there's no way to test for it, then I'm not going to waste my time thinking about it. It's a cool little thought experiment to be like, oh yeah, what if we're in a simulation? It's cute. To sound way more egotistical than I meant that to sound. But if it's not something that I can directly test or, look into more than just, hey, look at this cool thought experiment, then I'm not really going to give it any more thought than just, oh, that's a cool thing to think about.
So you're not into theoretical physics.
Well,
What about
theoretical
quantum
physics
physics?
theoretical physics and quantum physics can be shown more mathematically. They can be shown or not necessarily proven. You can't prove anything definitively, yada yada, philosophy of science.
Right.
But at least you can have more backing than a what if this or what if.
You work your way back off of variables, basically, as you have everything else fundamentally in place, and then if we plug in this might happen.
Yeah, it's one of those things of how deep are you going to go with the what if? If you start with the idea that 1 + 1 is 2, then you can build up from there. One of my favorite things I love to quote is there was an actual proof, a mathematical proof for 1 + 1 = 2, and that it took about 50 some odd pages to prove, because you had to define what 1 was, what a plus sign was, what an equal sign is,
Sounds fucking
what 2
exhausting.
is. I never want to read it because I feel like it's so inane.
You might relate to it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be like, this is the same amount of detail that I give in my presentation.
God damn it, I'm falling in love.
It might unlock.
I
next
needed
level,
this
Michael.
granularity.
But that's my thoughts on
How
that.
about you, Courtney?
Well, I think everything is true or nothing is true, so I don't know that it matters either way.
Only
kind
a
of-
Sith
That's
deals
pretty
in
deep.
absolutes.
Yeah, I agree with that, mainly from like a nihilistic standpoint.
An optimistic nihilist, or
Depends on the day, because that's kind of where I've been falling lately, and I don't know if it's just the next iteration of my mental health, but
Fair.
in a world where seemingly nothing matters, the only things that matter is what you do with the time that you're given. So whether or not you're in a simulation, if you are or aren't, I think the only thing that matters is what you do with the time that you have in there.
thanks, Gandalf.
Yeah, exactly. So if we are living in a simulation, fucking kick-ass Seabass, I don't know why I can't manifest fucking $100 bills.
Yeah.
But
I
guess
got some I got some problems. I got some, bug fixes that they should really bring to the developer.
yeah, I'm a tester.
I got
Yeah,
testes.
I think I'm with Corey on this. It's like whether you are or aren't, like, who gives a shit?
I've got too many problems to think about to even consider this as an option.
Let's tackle today.
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, I would be more fatalistic than nihilistic, where I was like, okay, if this is a simulation, then fuck this noise. I don't need
Boom.
to do this anymore.
But
Bathtub.
would it change the
Back
way
in the bathtub.
that
Back
you
in the
live
bathtub.
if you knew it was a simulation?
Say again?
Would it change the way you live currently if you knew it was a simulation?
I would say
of
there's a
course.
significant amount of this that has occurred when I stopped fundamentally believing in religion.
Yeah.
That proves that point. Because I was living as though there were an expectation, like a test I needed to pass later on. And then it was piecemeal, and it certainly wasn't necessarily always by choice. But there are barriers that were broken down, and they were, difficult, even painfully, to crib from Ian Malcolm. But, there you are. So, yeah, once I stopped believing in this idea that I was trying to live up to the expectation of some purportedly magical entity that created the universe, I started changing how I conducted myself. And, yeah, that is a hurdle I think I would have difficulty clearing if I, didn't feel as though this was an organic existence I was living, and that I could just sort of elect to end it and Groundhog Day this of like, well, let me just throw the
Try it again.
toaster in the bathtub to keep our metaphor going
You
and
know
see
what?
what happens. If it's a hard reboot, like, yeah, I would probably try it just to see what happened.
Like, it's trash. Fucking dump it. Put the fucking toaster in the fucking bathtub.
I want you when I'm frightened in Dad gummit in White Rabbit, when the reaches that fantastic note and the rabbit bites his own head off, I want you to throw the toaster the stereo into the tub with me.
Oh God, I'm lost.
Back to Fear and Loathing again.
Fuck,
Sorry,
yeah.
I should link it all together.
Okay, that's a through line. Got it. I have not read or watched, and I know that you hate me for it.
Yeah, well, taste is subjective.
If you don't hate me by the end of an episode, I don't think we've had an episode. So,
it's a fine point. It's kind of how I exist in the world, sadly.
speaking of the episode, though, do you guys have any stabs for some lies? Because you caught one.
Well, thank you.
I don't think he said any other numbers. Were there actually 5 considerations?
Yep. I debated changing that, but then figured that would be.
He did say there was some cheap ones floating
I did
about
guarantee
previously.
goddamn
So.
to Becky one after she read the script. They're like, they're gonna get the 60-40 one. They're gonna get that one.
Yeah.
That's the one they're expecting, but they're not expecting the others.
No, I got nothing.
No.
So in the sorry, Shane, got anything?
I'm still again. It's the difficulty of trying to process the entire episode and get back to the one or two things that arced my
That is
eyebrows
tough,
over
and
the
we've
course
tried-
when we were running.
Yeah, we've tried over the 100 episodes to be more in the moment or to
Mhm.
but I feel like this is still the best and only way to really do it is the postscript.
Yeah, at the very least, give an option for it, just in case there was something that you felt like you wanted to say, but you didn't want to break the flow. Because that's something I always run into. I I sometimes am loath to call out bullshit because I don't want to break the train of thought that's going on.
Right, and then all of a sudden you
I
forget.
realize that, but then I also realize that I'm a terrible human being, so I'll yell at bullshit anyway, so.
And that's, but I also encourage you to do that because I know otherwise if you try to hold it all in until the end, it's
gone.
gonna die. So, if I hadn't seen the Elon Musk segment myself, where some of those discussions were taking place, I did not see when he lit the joint though. So that was one thing where I was like, is it actually associated with a moment where he?
It's not associated with them. That's
that?
not a lie. That's just kind of a fluster or a clusterfuck of a wording on my part. It's in the episode, and I thought that was interesting when I started looking into it, because when I was starting to search, one of the first things that popped up was the Rogan episode with Musk lighting the joint, and then I had to make sure that it is the same episode that he infamously lit that fucking joint, because I think still that's hilarious.
I also enjoy that Rogan makes fun of the fact that they were talking about Red Dead Redemption, in fact, and some of the controversy surrounding it. For instance, like the clan rallies that you can sort of inconveniently audit from time to time.
Oh, dude, I love killing those fucking little bastards.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite moments in the entire game. Is seeing what incendiary devices do I have with me at the moment.
How can I creatively kill a piece of shit?
But yeah, he's always like, if I just want to hunt, I'm just going to go out and hunt. I was like, yeah, but a lot of us are lazy and don't like to be imperiled by, like, I actually am going to go face to face with nature and possibly be eaten by a black bear that's been, sugared up on donuts by some weird woman.
Hey.
New Hampshire.
Triggered.
Hashtag triggered. And so, yeah, like, I'm much happier and feel, as calm and sedate as a Hindu cow playing that game, because I can experience all of these things and not leave my couch.
Also, for you PlayStation users out there, and if you have a PlayStation Plus membership, I think Red Dead 2 will be the game of the month for July, for July. So
Cool.
if you haven't done it, you should. It's amazing. Whether or not you give a shit about the online, which Shane and I both, I think, have already said that we're not really into
never
that.
Even tried it.
But there are a lot of people that are. So if you want to have fun, do that.
I'm telling you, it is my Apex game. The more and more that I go back into, I start it over again.
I have an itch.
It just tickles me.
I have an itch to replay because I only played it the one. I just need to finish Ghost first. There's other games that I'm playing as always, but anywho, so
I can correct you. Red Dead is not this month because that threw me through a loop. This month is Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and WWE 2K Battlegrounds.
Oh, then it must be August then?
Because I remember being very disappointed about this month.
Yeah.
I do have a stab.
Go ahead.
I thought about it some more. You mentioned Stephen Hawking in passing at one point.
Yeah.
What does he have to do with all this?
Nothing.
Oh.
Okay.
Well done. So he doesn't really have anything to do. That was my last thing. So I told you that I went to the bar for a quick drink before this. I went to a bar for a quick lie session with the episode. So because I wrote it all factual. I was like, all right, it's time to fucking go through and put these fucking lies in here.
Okay.
And I wanted to do Stephen Hawking's, but I was like, there's such a likelihood that this guy had to have fucking said this or had to have agreed with it. And he kind of did. And I'm kind of pulling teeth here. So he thinks that it's a hologram, not necessarily a simulation. So it's slightly different. I'll go down that rabbit hole at a different time. But But specifically who Bostrom was referring to was Plato. So,
which, I mean, the analogy is apt.
Yeah.
Quite. It's funny. I was thinking back to the times when I got to dabble in physics. When I was taking astronomy courses, and the joys of discussing both string theory and saddle theory were things that just absolutely boggled my mind. Is that something that is still... Now, granted, this was nearly 20 years ago that this was something I was discussing, Michael. So is this something you're familiar with?
I know of string theory because it's one of those Pandora's box of things where you can mention string theory and it could mean a million different things. But I'm not familiar with saddle theory, but I assume it has something similar?
The way they were explaining it back at the time, and again, this was something that had nothing to do with, the general physics principles, but was more just talking about our relation to time and space, is the idea that universes are lined up on top of one another, sort of like, if it's easier to think of it as like strings on a guitar. So there's a degree of separation with all these things, and so they exist in parallel to one another, essentially. Then to change that, saddle theory is the idea that universes are not just a linear path, but they have what is loosely the shape of a horse saddle. And so the idea is that because of that, and because they're not running in parallel, that those are places where realities can collide. So in sort of an 11/22/63 of it all, because universes don't keep a linear shape, there will be overlap, or there's dimensional overlap. And so it's not necessarily something that relates galactically, but can also just be the dimensions of reality that we exist in. And so some of that factors into the way of thinking I had for this, where I'm going, okay, this is interesting, where you think of, okay, so there will be some overlap in places, because we can't just expect that things run in a straight line, or that there won't be any sort of impact on one another. You'd imagine some simulations, in fact, would probably run into one another. But anyway, all of these things, I think Hawking had some discourse on string theory at some point, is what I'm trying to extrapolate from. And so this what sprung it.
I can't remember exactly what he had to do, but I know that his work with black holes definitely influenced some work into string theory. It's when people think of like quantum mechanics, physicists think of string theory, and that's a gross overgeneralization. I hope the 0.02
the scientific community will not lambast you.
Physicists that watch this, yeah. Well, I mean, if you're offended, write in the comments.
They won't.
Well played.
Yeah. Engage
balls.
if you're offended. If you're not offended and have no idea, still write in the comments. But I don't know where comments, but just find some comments and write them. Or tell the nearest person that you're here. Just like start ranting at them.
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you're on your preferred provider app, rate and review. Tell us what you're thinking.
That's an
exactly.
We'd love to hear from
there
you.
Go.
Bam. Terrible segue. But like it's one of those things where you can talk. A lot of people use the idea of string theory. How a lot more lay people use the idea of quantum mechanics to explain things. String theory is like it's a lot of people's different attempts at a theory of everything. And so when you have a theory of everything, especially when you draw on more modern discoveries of physics, you have to try and tie a lot of things together at once, especially if they have no known relation, or at least no well-known relation. And so he might have something tangentially. It could be the same idea as like Einstein before he died. He was trying to write a theory of everything. It could have been that Hawking, before he passed, he had some work in that as well. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you.
The simulation just ran out of processing power.
I know I did.
Slow down.
I see the loading screen. Of I'm getting is blue in front of my eyes. I'm getting your system has crashed.
Yep, my man.
The other lie that you guys.
Sorry.
You're great. The other lie that you guys missed was another cheap shot, but in the allegory of a cave, the people that were seeing the shadows on the wall, they did assign the shadows names, but they didn't assign
jobs.
the shadows jobs.
Okay, as you said it, my brain, I was sitting there and I'm going like,
why would they need
They
jobs?
wouldn't have jobs. They're chained in a cave, but okay, sure.
This one's a tax attorney.
Yeah.
Did you see the shadows? Like it's got like a keyboard or a typewriter or something.
He's not a tax attorney. He's a taxidermist.
Same thing.
Nope. Testa.
And now the final one, I'm really proud of. This one I think is genre-defying lie for me. Michael?
So in my little blurb, I actually had a lie.
What?
Yeah. So I mentioned steps to the development of a galaxy-spanning civilization. I mentioned complex life cannot come about without developing sexual organs for reproduction. That is not necessarily true.
If you're only referring to organic life.
Yeah. there are plenty of animals that actually can reproduce asexually through many different ways. I
know
looked
you
it up
envy
too.
them.
Yeah, if only I can just reproduce by butt. No, actually, I wouldn't want to do that because there would be more than one me, and
You say
there's
reproduce
only
by
one.
butt?
There's it's like a
Butt babies?
never mind. Yeah, I just shit one out.
Tanaka's tea?
You know what?
But there's actually a couple that I found. Apparently, there are chickens and some types of reptiles that can reproduce with their eggs unfertilized. Almost kind of like the Jurassic Park.
Would you say?
Life finds a way?
Yeah.
So we used that once already.
Yeah.
I would like to just say that was a really cheap shot, John, because as soon as Michael starts talking, I zone out. So there was no way I was going to get that lie.
I just thought
You
it
knew
would
the
be
bias.
really fun.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Well done.
It was great. Yeah.
Well,
And that's all we have.
kudos, my friend. You've actually delivered an episode.
I feel like I haven't changed at all.
And
Well,
that's
there
that's
was
the whole point.
There was no mention of your document crashing or technology, defeating you,
Nope.
or
That's true.
dealing with the handicap of having Michael part of your presentation.
Well, the
I
only
mean,
handicap that I really had is that I used to be liberal, and to really pull myself up by my bootstraps to do this episode, I just leaned into being a fucking red-ass Republican. And
just a little stick-to-itiveness, and you can
it's all-
overcome
It's
anything.
all it fucking took, guys.
Thank you for sharing your testimony with us, Brother John.
Yeah, you're very fucking welcome.
I would like to bear my testimony.
Oh, I don't think you can do that.
I'm
anymore.
just kidding. I'm not a fucking idiot.
Listen, to all of our Republican friends who listen to this podcast,
You're a fucking idiot.
we love and appreciate you, and whatever money that you're willing to let us little grubbing miscreants get a hold of at some point in our lives, and thank you.
Well, it's for the greater good, so we should all just share our money and all make the same wage doing different jobs.
Yes,
Varying
well, that's
degrees of effort, but
borderline
it's-
communism, my friends. But speaking of which, those sponsors that we were trying to get previously that we were alluding to, I'm sure
Yeah,
a
they're
lot
gone.
of them are most certainly Republicans. So just bear that in mind. If you're willing to take the money, you've got to be willing to abandon all scruples.
No, it's fine that you're capitalist pigs. It's great.
Oink, oink,
Hey, I'll sell out at
motherfucker.
a moment. I tell you what.
Hey, in this simulation, you're doing fucking great.
Noted. Well, before we get out of here, I know John had alluded to this, and I think that at 100 episodes, at the very least, we can somewhat tease a little appreciation. And Michael is being technical with us and saying that really it's not an anniversary until we hit episode 104, because everyone thinks that way. Welcome to the physicist in the room, but
You're going by
for,
like
Well,
a year,
actually,
right?
yeah, for those of us who are celebrating at 100, like most other folks do, who are just governed by odd, what shall we say, Roman-esque numeric systems. Always got to deal with tens and hundreds here. Yeah, that's where we're at. So, here's a challenge for all of you. And I have pulled up the hit list playlist from YouTube just to give myself a leg up here. But I would like each of us to select an episode that was one of our favorites that we did not present ourselves.
That's going to be really easy for me.
oh shit.
I didn't want to unnecessarily throw a hurdle in front of you, John,
Okay.
but
You want us to report back next week or brainstorm?
no.
right now?
It's,
Like,
I mean,
like this?
right now, I think we need to just one. I'm not saying you've got to pick everything out, and I'm just saying think of an episode that you remember was really fun in the moment for recording, and I think this will be even more sort of interesting to get Courtney's impression because she was not present for many of the episodes leading up to her involvement.
I think my favorite off the cuff was the turning point for our format with Michael's episode on the mystery method. I think
Really?
mystery method was the first episode that we did where after I left the session I was like, I had fun and I think it sounded fun.
Which is funny because that began the recording for that day, if I recall. Or actually, no, that was the middle. That was the sandwich.
Yeah. And it's not to say that I was having a bad time at all during all this, but I mean, you're
No,
figuring
yeah.
out what the fuck you're doing. And I think that Michael doing that is the first time that you and I, Shane, really kind of like let our improv shit fly a little more. And,
Because
you know,
we started that whole episode with the screaming vacuum and me ordering weird things off of Instagram and the Russian mail order bride. Like all of those things were born of our little discussion at the beginning of the mystery method. So
what is
I
yours,
agree.
Shane?
I was thinking about in the same vein because I actually was thinking of mystery method, and then I went. I really loved the Goop episode.
Yeah, we're going deep cuts here.
Yeah, I had a lot of just for thinking like of the things that I still harken back to. There's a lot like the Flat Earth episode. I loved. The Birds Aren't Real was great as well, and of course, naturally, as I'm scrolling back through, I was joking that the bees episode from Courtney definitely changed the game as well, pretty
That
dramatically.
did change the game because now Michael, his address is being shared to people, and he.
So those were all things if I were looping in, but the one that kind of really broke me for how obscure and yet ludicrous we could get was floating back and looking at Goop, because we went so far afield in the course of that discussion, and that was still kind of in the nascent stages of putting this whole concept together where I was like, oh, this is what we can do now. Okay, so we don't just have to do a barrage of factoids and sort of this dour look into the Stanford prison experiment, but we can, do ridiculous stuff, which is what led to me doing Elephants on Acid and some of the more bizarre or ludicrous things going forward. So that's one that stands out to me as I look back. But the first Flat Earth episode I've re-listened to multiple times as well, is we have some really fun banter at the beginning of that. It's not to say it's anything accredited to you, Michael. We just had fun at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point, because that's what I'm thinking of right now. Actually, no, I want John to answer.
Well, I already did. Courtney, you need to answer.
I guess that's fair.
Let's see. So I'm kind of going through the one that really stands out to me the most. And I think the one for me where it was like, okay, they're really like starting to build some steam and they're like coming into their own, would be the Exorcist Myth episode. I really enjoyed the banter in that one. I really enjoyed, just because you guys are such movie buffs.
Mm-hmm.
And just talking about it and your passion for the movie, like that was a great episode. I really enjoyed that one.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun. That's also another one of those that we started kind of having to rig the system of, if I'm going to lie, I'm going to have to be really inventive about how I do this, if it's subject matter that everybody's kind of familiar with.
Right.
Yeah, so it's interesting gauntlets being thrown down.
Mike, what about you?
I honestly can't decide. I'm staring at
First,
the episode list.
Impulsive, just shot out of the shotgun blast.
I would have to any of the freeforms. To be honest, any of the freeforms felt a lot more comfortable and relaxed in just that we were able to
like
take the first 30 minutes of what we always do, because we usually spend like 20-30 minutes every episode now just shooting the shit, but we turn that into a whole episode. Those are just fantastic. If I had to, I'd probably have to say like the "Oh No You Dadn't" or
yeah.
Even the 43% Michael is also quite fun, just because the rants that was when I was like really, really just overall upset at everything.
And very mad at Jeremy Corbell.
Oh yeah.
That poor man.
Yeah. And just
he used cuss words.
I did. I believe so. I think I
this
even
guy
had
yells.
to censor one or two of them. Yeah. Those just off the, like, because there's so many different areas that you can look at, like in terms of just shooting the shit, then I would say those. In terms of like actual good conversations, I would say stuff like the behavioral sync, a lot of the older ones, like even the Richard Simmons episode was really good.
That was a lot of fun.
Because it was a lot of just like the topics that we explore are so varied and fascinating, each in its own right.
The definition of eclectic, yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's what I really enjoy about just our episodes in general, is that, I mean, I'm just looking at the list that we have. We talked about LaVeyan Satanism.
Dick too hard.
No, I'm not even talking about mine. I'm not even talking about my episodes.
Said ours,
but I mean,
fair,
if we're ever gonna do it, there is one time we can afford to be a little self-aggrandizing. I would say 100 episodes in is pretty good, because I mean, I don't think we would have. This is one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up, and I don't mean to tack an excessive length of time on, but Michael and I've talked about this previously and relative to the experience we have here, but I don't want to totally derail off of Michael's point.
No, you're fine. Go
but
for it.
one of the reasons I really also enjoyed bringing Courtney in is that's a whole new depth of interests and topics that got brought in. So yeah, our perspective just broadened. But Michael and I didn't know each other really before we started this. Yeah. We were tangentially acquainted, but I mean, I just knew him as the guy in our t-shirt.
As well, yeah.
The guy in the t-shirt shows up to the band, gets really drunk, tries to hit on people, and fails.
It wasn't even that. Like, I didn't... like, a portrait of me at a show is I'm very insular. Going into the show, I'm kind of hyper-focused on what I need to do. And John is more hyper-focused on getting the group together, which is interesting. But it's like, I have a weird kind of game plan in my head. And so once I'm done with the set, I can relax. And most of the time, that's me not wanting to be around people. So I'm not the socializer after shows in many instances. I'm the one who packs my gear up very deliberately because I want to have a moment to just get my thoughts back and get centered. So you and I didn't really interact at all. Like, we'd been introduced, and I would talk to you occasionally, and I would always welcome you when I saw you at the shows because I was like, oh yeah, that's John's friend in the t-shirt. But up until us starting this show, I did not know Michael and definitely didn't know his personality, certainly didn't know our shared affiliations or anything like that. So, I mean, it's kind of an interesting study in watching our friendship kind of organically form to the point that I really do consider you one of my better friends, which for me is saying something. It is not something that I just I don't really have a lot of friends in general. I have acquaintances who I'll shake hands and run away from.
But not people that know your deep, dark thoughts.
Certainly not, nor ones that listen to me rant about Republicans or voting rights or telling people that they need to die if they believe in God. Like, it's, in general, it's not something that commonly happens. So yeah, this show is, it's a marvel. It's kind of a miracle, and I've really enjoyed it. So I never would have thought from episode 1 where Michael just lobs this concept at us and sends the sort of previously recorded episodes and me going like, yeah, I can spruce this up. I can conceptualize this and just let me drive.
Which is why I asked Michael. I was like, are you cool with the 3rd? And then we eventually had the conversation, are you cool with the 4th? And now we just have fucking orgies. Yeah. No, I see.
All the better for it.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and it really, I feel like, has brought a lot of us closer. Because, again, Courtney, same deal, like, is somebody who John met organically out in the world, but who I only met through sort of circumstance, and then sort of, like, I knew by face, by and large, people who are in the crowd who show up to shows, but I'm not really sociable, and I don't often tend to go and try to make friends or acquaintances, and Courtney, I have a feeling, is very similar. So, like, we didn't really know each other other than I knew that Courtney and Jonah were the few people on the planet who enjoyed Speechless, and that was it. That was kind of the holding company that I shared.
We can bring it back.
So,
please, I beg, so many times.
Gonna need to, be a castrati if that song's gonna get in rotation.
Take it back to the
I'm
original
still expected
key.
to sing. But so it's this really wonderful sort of microcosm of connected feelings and sort of making me be more human. And it's one of the reasons I really love listening back to the show. It's not sort of this vainglorious, let me appreciate the moments where I can actually issue a phrase without stammering, but more that, like, I love when we have fun. And it's like going back, the same reason I watch movies over and over is it's like hanging out with your friends again. So yeah, it's rote dialogue and it never changes, but it's still comforting. It's a warm blanket at the end of the day when there's so much chaos and discord in the world. Certainty is a big thing to me. And so I need that sort of little womb to crawl back into and encapsulate me. And this show has kind of become that for a long time. So 100 episodes in, it's as much free therapy for me as it is anything else.
I agree.
So.
And I would gladly penetrate your womb or let you penetrate my womb anytime. And I love it every single time it happens.
You
all
do,
of
and
you
you'll
guys.
clean
It goes
it
to
up.
all of you guys. And Gab. Courtney's not pleased about the womb thing, but I value your friendships. Thank you very much.
Okay, chrysalis. How about that? Make it insectal and unfeeling, and then we're fine.
Hold on, let's make it more universal. I love when you guys are inside of me.
Okay.
And you can be inside of me whenever you want. And I hope that it's okay when I'm inside of you.
No.
No, it's a very one-sided thing, actually. If you could just stay over there.
I am inside myself.
Perfect.
I'll just go.
I will go inside myself.
Finally.
There he goes. Off to write that hit
He's
song,
never gonna
Alone
come
in My
back.
I'm
Principles.
going to go fold myself into 6 pieces.
Because the paper can't be folded any more than that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was thinking too,
Oh
but
my
I didn't
God.
want to say.
Well,
Like,
there was
that's probably a movie reference I don't get, so I'm going to shut my mouth.
there was a whole Mythbusters episode devoted to the
was.
fact that you can only fold a piece of paper a certain number of times.
Mhm.
And they disproved it with a gigantic piece of paper. But
Checkmate, atheist.
well, thank you all for indulging in what is now creeping up on hour number 2 of our having this discussion, but I felt it warranted it, particularly for this. And shout out to Dewan and all of our myriad other guest hosts, superfan
Kristen.
Steven and Kristen, of course.
What else do we have? Do we have
Kristen,
anybody else?
Steven, Jonah, Dewan.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. I forgot about
Yeah.
Jonah.
Jonah
How did I
was,
forget about
yes.
Jonah? I think I was just too taken by his beauty.
Don't you mean Noah?
Yeah, Noah.
That's the alternate simulation.
Mhm, mhm.
And
Evil Jonah.
oh, evil Jonah, who's actually enjoying that John being inside of him in an alternate
He would let
realm.
me inside of him.
That's true.
Would that be Noah's Ark?
That would be a Noah
No,
shower.
that would be Jonah in the whale.
You leave my bath time out of this.
Swallow you whole.
Swallow.
No, Jonah doesn't do that.
Damn near
he's
killed her?
proper.
Well, I think that is brilliant. And thank you all. I think most importantly, the most vital component present here is those to whom we are addressing ourselves at the moment, the ears that we are inside of, to use John's metaphor. But for you, the listeners, thank you so much for actually being here and investing your time, because I know it is no simple matter, and there is a wealth of content out there in the world, and you could be listening to any of it, but you are actually enjoying this, hopefully. And for that, we are eternally grateful and immensely appreciative. So thank you for sharing a little bit of your lives with us and letting us share a lot of our lives with you. It means a lot, and I am perpetually awed and thrilled to see the volume of people to whom we are exposing ourselves routinely, and not in the way that my progenitors had.
It is growing, even if it's a slow growth. It's still growing. So yeah, there are strangers that know more about me than my mom. So that's very fucking weird.
In Bangladesh, no less. Yeah. No, the sheer volume of places that we have exposure to at this point. If you run down the laundry list of countries that there are folks who have downloaded this podcast, it'll blow your mind, John. I know you don't often log into the sponsoring app, but Michael and I see it
every now and again.
pretty routinely, and yeah, there is an immense amount of places that I am shocked that there are folks, in Bengali that have encountered this podcast, and it blows my mind.
Yeah.
So in any event, thank you all for being here, and if you appreciate us, please, as I said, rate and review. It helps us out immensely. And of course, always remember there is myriad material just winging your way, not only here every Monday morning on your preferred podcast provider app, but also we have a slew of social networks, all of which Courtney is saving from being just completely disavowed. First and foremost, amongst them being our increasingly popular TikTok, 2 million strong and growing.
Yeah, 200,000 million. Yep.
So kudos for helping to bring us into the cool platform, and of course the Instagram, which we are still holding it down as at Disinformed Podcast, and of course at TikTok it is also just
At Disinformed
Disinformed Podcast.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm too old, the at. And of course, on the Twitters, at DisinformedPod, and Facebook.com/DisinformedPodcast for your drunk uncle out there who doesn't know how to find us otherwise. And of course, on the tubes of you, almost every Wednesday, we have got very weird, wild, and wacky material winging your way. This week's installment was a lot of fun as we had yet another trip to the well, and we revisited My Immortal from an actual articulate perspective, which was very enjoyable, and that aired last Wednesday, and was an immense amount of fun, and I enjoyed it. Well, I don't know who else has watched it. When I say last Wednesday, I'm referring to those who are listening to this on air date, as opposed to John, who raised his eyebrows at me. It aired today.
It was today.
Yeah.
But we're recording.
I watched the first 5 minutes and then had to do stuff, so I will continue listening as well.
Oh, well. Were you working on the pilot for Butt Rock, or?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Here with the butts, you have to rock on my butts. That's the theme song.
Oh, God, I shudder at the thought of the theme. And speaking of which, thank you for that transition, because that was the last bit of fun that I had for us, is that John worked for hours, and against my better judgment, I'm rewarding the attention-seeking behavior, crafting an outro song for us, in spite of the fact that I will miss Uncle Touchy's anthem at the end of these episodes.
I feel like it's time to let him die.
It has been
Good night, Uncle Touchy.
our just and loving friend, and Melissa really loves that outro. She's very partial to it, so she'll be sad to see it leave. But so John has got a new outro sequence that he has put together with some help from the incredibly talented Courtney.
Yep.
And so
This is the
what
episode?
I want to do in order to end this episode is, one, we're going to put the full vocalized version into the episode now, so that you all can listen to it unfettered without our talking, mussing, or fussing, and Michael can do this as the demigod editor here. But I also want to have us all listen to it with one another, so that we can joy and chuckle and giggle. And so we'll have a little bit where we are all off mic here technically while you all listen to it, but we're going to listen to it as well. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Let's do it.
Of course.
I haven't listened to it in a long time.
I don't believe in fun. I hate America. I cannot be restrained.
It just makes me want to be the hype man at some point.
DJ Shane!
Shut the fuck up!
So,
It's beautiful.
So that is the new new outro music. Won't have the vocals.
I adore it. I do. Contrary to my ball busting previously, because it's part of my character. But yeah, it's.
I think it's the only good beat that I've made. Admittedly, I haven't tried too hard, but that was when Courtney and Michael were here in person. And you were, I think it was when you were with Steven.
Yeah, he was with
Because it
Steven
was
that night, yeah.
Disinformed West and Disinformed East. And then when we finished up, I was like, quick, guys, like, we got to do something to, like, fuck with Shane. Like, let's see how fast I can make a beat. And then it kind of, like, fumbled a little bit for a second, but I feel like I did the majority of, like, the structuring of it
Yeah.
in, like what,
Yeah.
10, 15 minutes maybe?
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But awesome. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you will continue to enjoy it from this point forward.
It's
if
alive.
John has his way.
And I have found out, Courtney, before we recorded today, how to get that sound on TikTok.
Whoop, whoop.
So
Ooh.
today,
I was.
Boo-boo?
Yes, Yogi. I was this years old when John ruined my life again.
I lived to serve you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Anywho, we hope you enjoyed, and we hope that you keep coming back, because obviously we ain't gonna stop. We are incapable. And Michael can't be restrained.
He hates America.
Don't we all?
I cannot.
Tasty, tasty
Oh,
content.
no!
Oh, man, as I was watching, they were talking about the cabin in the woods in Montana that they're forwarding all the Arizona voting stuff to
Fuck
under
me.
the auspices that is. I just turned to Melissa. I was like, we got to get the fuck out of here. Like, I mean that as a blanket sweep.
Hey,
just get me out of here.
We've been doing this show remotely for over a year. We can do it from fucking anywhere. I could do it from a fucking van in the middle of
Are
Nebraska.
we not in a van right now?
We're in a simulation,
Oh,
certainly.
you think this is a van? Okay.
Sound like I'm going through a tunnel.
I live in a van down by the river, and I take baths on the beach like a whale. All right, ladies and germaphobes, thank you for sticking with us. 100 strong, sensuous episodes in. We love you, we appreciate you, and so for Disinformed this season, should we call 104 where you want to start season 3? Is that your official
fuck.
Michael?
No, we can
I don't
do
give a
it
fuck about
every.
rules. I see rules and I fuck them. I fucking hate rules.
I guess facts don't care about your feelings.
We don't have a fax machine, Michael. All right, well.
Speaking of which, Disinformed now has
Shut
a
the
fax.
fuck up, Michael.
Couldn't be a more appropriate outro if we tried. So for season 2 of the Disinformed podcast, I'm Shane.
I'm John.
I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
Shut the fuck up, Michael.